This is our agenda. First, we will discuss the current issue. The next one will be introduction of face counter, followed by competitors, and then constraint. And the last one will be SWOT analysis as our conclusion. So, what is face counter? Face counter is used to count people by face recognition. Now, I would like to discuss the reason why we need face counter. It is mainly for business and government. For business, it can help to increase the customer satisfaction by providing accurate information on the number of customers at what time and customer behavior. The company can monitor the length of queues and how long customers wait. If the line is too long, the company should take some action to solve it, like recruiting more staff. Also, the face counter can help analyzing the success of advertising campaigns. For example, if the activities like soap of shopping mall increase the number of people at mall, the company should continue to do it. Moreover, the face counter can check the movement of customers. Managers can use it to understand how to deploy staff and the preference of customers. Take retailer as an example. If the customers always move to the specific area, the company should deploy more salespersons at that area. For government, we can count pedestrian flow. Hong Kong is a compact city. Our population density is very high. Our space is limited. We rely on massive transit system. If we can count the number of passengers accurately, we can adjust the schedule to maximize the efficiency. For roads, we can better design to meet the capacity. For festivals such as Christmas and Chinese New Year, massive crowd celebrations, we can do better crowd control and prevent ticketing accidents like the one in Shanghai. On top of that, we could count and report the number of protesters accurately.
In this part, I'm going to explain how face counter works. First, I have to introduce remote sensing, since face counter is a similar concept. Remote sensing is the science of acquiring information about the Earth's surface without actually being in contact with it. But how remote sensing collects the information actually? The process includes using sensor to sense and record the reflected energy of target objects. Then, we process and analyze the data of reflected energy to get the information. Satellite images and aerial photos are two examples of remote sensing. These images record the reflectance of energy. We know that we have different forms of energy. Here is the electromagnetic spectrum. From this graph, we can see different forms of energy. The only form can be felt by human is visible light. Face counter is collecting the data of visible light. After talking about the energy forms, we are going to explain the details of the process. First, the prerequisite of the collection is an illumination source, which emits energy. For example, indoor, we have the light bulb. The emitted energy from the light bulb strikes the object. Then the object reflects the energy. Finally, we record the reflectance of our targeted object. Different surfaces reflect energy differently, so by recording the differences, we could tell what the object is. After explaining how face counter collects data, we have to know how the data is stored. Since it is an automatic counter, obviously the data is stored by computers. Computers store data in a different format with human. I'm going to explain how the computer store images captured by sensor. A photo in digital format is divided by many equal-sized and shaped areas which are called pixels. The picture at the right-hand corner of the slide demonstrates the division of the photo. As we said before, The sensor records the reflectance, and there may be a strong or weak reflectance. Different reflectance mean different level of brightness. The computer uses a numeric value to represent the relative brightness. Each area contains a numeric value which is called a digital number. Putting everything all together, we know how phase counter does its jobs. First, camera capture images which record the energy reflectance for our targeted areas. Different surfaces such as people or objects have different reflectance. Different reflectance is stored in the form of different pixel values. Through analyzing the values, we can discern human from other objects. In the following section, I'm going to explain how to analyze the pixel values in order to distinguish people from objects. First, people and objects have different reflectance. We capture the image of a particular area at the beginning of time. This image is the background. We distinguish people by comparing the pixel values of the background and those of human. But the limitation is that we have to ensure there is enough contrast between the background and human. Second, we know that people are moving while the background is fixed. Moving people means pixel values are changing. By tracing a similar group of changing values, we know a person is moving. However, these two methods have a common problem. If two people are standing too close, the computer may recognize them as a single person. To address the problem, we need face recognition. No faces are identical. The technology locates features on faces, calculates distances and ratios of these features, and compares the data to reference data. After that, we could tell how many people by calculating how many faces. This method has two advantages. 1. Very high accuracy. 2. Solving the problem mentioned before. The limitations include that it is possible that the faces overlap with other faces or objects. So, we may have to install a lot of cameras from different angles in order to capture all faces.
Then, let's talk about the competitor of face counter. There are three main alternatives of it, which are sampling, transaction records, or IR sensor systems. For sampling, it is the simplest way to count the number of people, as it mainly relies on the observation with less technologies. When sampling is used, manpower will become an important factor. There should be someone to stay near the entry or elsewhere for counting. Those people may use and counter manually so that the number of people going or leaving can be recorded. Sampling is always used for some large marches or rallies. However, it is usually supported by some technologies. The organizer will firstly take some videos to record the movements of participants. Then they will stop the screens and count for the people every 15 minutes, because they assume that those people will be replaced by other participants within 15 minutes. Finally, they can estimate the total number of participants through this method. The table of your left-hand side summarizes some estimated figures of some marches conducted by different kinds of organization which use sampling. From the table, it shows that the differences between the organizations are really big. So, can we still think that the sampling is a good way for counting people? Absolutely not, because it has some disadvantages if we compare it with face counter. As I mentioned before, Sampling always relies on manpower. The whole process is run by people. However, people can be affected easily, such as fatality, which is easy to lead to the large errors. To compare with sampling, phase counter rely on machines rather than manpower, such as a computer. Thus, the counting process tends to be more accurate and less error. Also, sampling requires to employ relatively large manpower. The accuracy of sampling depends on the number of people employed. Please imagine that if there are not enough employees for counting, the organization may need to give up some places, which leads to inaccurate. However, phase counter requires less manpower. People are only need to set up the machines so that the system can operate automatically. Thus, it may also lead to lower cost for operation. Lastly, sampling is relatively time-consuming because manpower usually leads to a slow process. According to accounting research, we need to spend half an hour to count people for every 1 minute freeze-frame video. However, phase counter is an automatic system. It can detect faces and count the number of people in the same time. So, it requires less time, but we can get more accurate information. Another competitor of phase counter is transaction record, and it is mainly applied for transportation. When the passengers use the tickets or octopus card to pass the entries, it is recorded automatically. Thus, the business can know the number of passengers inside the station. However, same with sampling, transaction record also has its own disadvantage. Transaction record cannot count for the waiting time or the number of people in particular area. After the people enter to the station, they will move their own way. However, the system cannot know this kind of movement. To compare with transaction record, phase counter can record and report this kind of information. Thus, it seems phase counter is more useful to compare with those two kinds of competitors.
Another method that is commonly used is infrared sensor system. Briefly speaking, it is based on the infrared interruption counting. First of all, two sensors have to be installed on both sides of the entrance, which are transmitter, the IR source, and receiver respectively. When a customer passes and covers the signal going from transmitter to the receiver, the system will notice it and then count as one. However, it does not distinguish the direction of movement of people. Therefore, normally it assumes every visitor has 2 times passing through the sensor, entering and leaving. The obtained result will divide by half. Because of its cheap cost, it uses in many retail stores and transportation services, for example, automated passenger counting systems. IR sensor system has 3 drawbacks, which are inaccurate, easy to manipulate, and no directional counting. For accuracy problem, errors occur easily when few or a group of visitors are passing through the entrance at the same time. The system will count one visitor only. Any beam interruption, for example head interruption, will be counted as visitor, while IR sensor relies on beam, which means that the detection area is only few lines. However, our phase counter has relatively accurate information since phase is different from everyone. It will not be easily interrupted unless the visitor's face is being covered. The second problem is that the system will easily be triggered once something has blocked the infrared, for example animals. But for the phase counter, it will only count humans by recognizing their faces. This means that it will be able to distinguish between human and non-human. which makes the result more accurate. Lastly, IR sensor is unable to distinguish the direction. Therefore, it is not applicable in areas with multiple entrances and exits. Contrastly, face counter can be applied to anywhere. The system can recognize the direction of visitors by detecting the faces. All in all, face counter can overcome the problems resulted from sampling, transaction record, and IR sensor system. Next, we will talk about the constraints of face counter.
Although the system really useful in head counting, the constraints should not be neglected as they may hinder the effectiveness of the system. The system requires large amount of investment, not only the initial development cost, but also the installation cost and analysis software cost. Besides, since the application is unpopular at the beginning, as only few large-scale shopping malls can afford this system, the popularity will be low and the system is difficult to break even at the beginning. Besides, people today being more concerned of personal privacy, and this is one of the constraints of the systems. Since personal data will be collected for analysis purpose, two questions are raised. The first is what kind of data should be collected. Corporations today are actively collecting customer data for their CRM purpose. As more data is collected, we will wonder which kind of data is unnecessary for their CRM and whether they will over-collect personal data. Therefore, we need to assess the required data carefully before taking actions. The second question will be how to prevent from violating law while collecting data. It is difficult for the shopping mall to collect shoppers' data, as shoppers need to be notified that their data will be collected. Thus, the shopping malls need to tackle this problem by introducing appropriate methods that all shoppers agree to, such as membership program, so that there is a consensus between the shopping malls and shoppers. Moreover, if the system can identify the faces and then connect to some social networking websites to build a database, it may encounter the problem of inadequate data. Although people will use their pictures as profile icons, some may use other pictures like cartoons or their pets as the profile icons. So, it is impossible for the system to identify these kind of pictures and then relate them to the database. Last but not least, copyright is one of the constraints of the system. IT technology can be copied by other firms quickly these days. Once the system is introduced to the market, other firms will copy this technology quickly, which may adversely affect the popularity of this original system as well as the revenue generated from the system.
We will use SWOT analysis as our conclusion. This is our conclusion. We have mentioned this point before in previous slide. Although the weaknesses and threats exist, we are sure that the face counter will be great because of this strength and opportunity. They are our references. This is the end of our presentation.